Hi, I'm Parkson, Head of Programs at the Center for Fathering. It is my privilege to have as my guests on Ask the Experts, a mother and daughter duo. It's Carol Loy and her daughter Nicole. Both Carol and Nicole are certified mental toughness coaches. And since I don't really know what that means, I'll be asking them. So, Carol and Nicole, welcome to Ask the Experts.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, great to be here.
This is a very unique opportunity. In fact, I think it's my first time having a mother-daughter team, to interview both of you together. So I'm really looking forward to it and learning as much as I can from both of you on this very interesting topic of mental toughness. So let's kick off by maybe you helping me understand what mental toughness is and when do we need it?
Yeah, okay, sure. So maybe if I could rewind back a little bit to share a little bit more on why both of us embarked on this journey to learn more about mental toughness and now having opportunities to share with families as well as young people. And so both of us are on media quite a bit. She as a young person is on the internet a lot, on social media, and she actually studies mass communication. And so over the years, we have seen how technology impacts our mental well-being, and also how that is impacting young people as well as families. So I started out about 2-3 years ago figuring out how can we better support young people as well as parents to navigate media and technology together. And that's how I got myself certified as a mental toughness coach. And mental toughness means it's the ability to manage stress while performing. It derives from sports. Actually, the people who came up with this evidence-based framework that both of us use to teach families and young people now is developed by a sports psychologist who adapted the mental strategies that elite sports people, right, sportsmen, athletes, when they go into a competition beyond the usual physical training like swimming or basketball or the shooting. There's a lot of things that goes through the mind as well. The mental rehearsal of what's going to come, what are some of the contingencies that can happen, how can we react and stay adaptable. Those mental skills are what is actually possible for all of us to learn, young or old. And so last year, was it last year? And so I was telling her very excitedly about, wow, all these things I'm learning is so exciting. It finally all makes sense because it can be applied to things like cyberbullying, or dealing with temptations online. And so when I was talking to Nicole about it, and because she is a netball captain, she plays netball, and I was explaining to her, do you understand it, as a young person? And what do you think when I shared that with you?
Yeah, so I thought it was really relevant. I think a lot of questions I had still currently use, and many of my other friends also, there's been talks of it online. And so when she came to me with that, then I just said, why not just go for it and learn about it? And as I took in all the information, which most of it will be sharing with you later, I think it really made sense for me, especially as a youth, finally getting to look through like all of the things that I've been seeing like in culture in Singapore also, and then realizing that, hey, like there's a better and healthier way to go about with things, especially in the area of mental health.
Yeah, so really, in short, answering your question, mental toughness is the ability to harness the feelings, the emotions, that stress that comes from stress. How do we turn that into something that is positive, that can help us to perform well? So really, in short, it's about stress management in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So it sounds like to me, okay, it's more than stress management. It's actually making use of that energy that comes from stress and re-diverting it into a more productive, output, right? Instead of being paralyzed by stress, all right, you are re-diverting it to something more productive.
Yeah, so maybe I could illustrate in a way. So when we teach it to young people, we would say, actually stress or anxiety is just one way that the body is talking to us, right? The body is showing us a sign, and you feel something that's a little bit odd, but it's actually telling us that we need to respond to it. There are healthy ways and unhealthy ways to respond to the feelings, the things that we feel. So I would give them an illustration, an example, right? So for example, when you feel hungry, what do? Your body is talking to you, right? Your stomach will feel something. And then there are healthy way and unhealthy way to respond to that way that the body is telling us, is talking to us in that sense, right? Healthy way of feeling hungry would be?
Healthy way would be eating fruits and vegetables is a textbook answer.
Okay.
And then unhealthy?
Well trained.
Yeah, unhealthy?
McDonald's, my personal favorite. But then again, it is
Or
unhealthy.
ice cream.
Yeah.
So the body is telling us, right, through all the different hormonal balances and different stuff that's happening in our body to tell us, hey, actually our body needs something, right? Our body needs nutrients and therefore we need to eat. So another example I will give is what do we do when we are thirsty? Again, it's another feeling that comes, right? You feel thirsty. There are healthy and unhealthy ways. So same thing. So those feelings, nobody would say that, there's something wrong with feeling hungry. That we should be concerned about feeling hungry. So same thing with stress, right? That stress can be something that can help us to motivate us to do something, right? So before this, for example, I was feeling a little bit stressed about, am I preparing enough? Or am I going to be clear? And there are certain mental preparation that both of us did, to prepare for this, mentally go through it. We talked about it so that when whatever comes, we are better able to focus on the issue. So these are skills and strategies that can be taught and can be learned across ages. So I find that so useful when it comes to, this whole conversation about how we are living and raising children in a more and more complex environment. And it's no longer realistic to expect children to live without stress. I think that's not a healthy approach, but a more useful way would be how to deal with it. How to deal with it in a way and give them handles to empower them to be able to cope with the different stresses that might come their way.
How is mental health or mental toughness related to mental health?
So mental toughness is about managing stress. So mental health, I think, is also a whole suite. It's not just about the absence of mental illness, but it's really how balanced are we in approaching life? Do we have like a positive outlook to life? And mental toughness is really a more specific set of skills about dealing with stress. So what we specialize in is not just how do we stay happy and so on. The model that I'm going to describe later actually encompass a suite of skills that can give us a more holistic approach towards mental well-being. So understanding how to manage stress is an important part. But it's not the full part of what we can do to stay mentally healthy. There's a whole suite of other things. It could be your diet. Are we managing sleep? And all the other things all have to do with an integration of the mind and the body.
I see. So
it has got a few components, and perhaps I could verbally share it with you. We typically teach it over a few sessions, but essentially it's an evidence-based framework. It comprises of 3 basic mental skills and 5 C's, what it's called 5C model. And the 5C model would be, the first one is composure, which means staying calm. And the second C is about concentration. When we are calmer, and sometimes when I talk to the kids, our brain is on fire. When you feel very upset, very angry, right? Your brain is on fire. Whatever daddy and mommy telling you, you won't get in. We want our brain to put out the fire, to be calmer so that we can receive instruction, we can hear and focus better. So the first one is stay composed, composure. Second C is concentration. The third C is confidence, right? Remember that there are things within us that we can draw from our past success, or we could have mentors around us that we can learn from, or role models. And when we can handle these 3 C's well, we can then deal with the 4th C, right? 4th C is culpability, the ability to manage, right, different things that come our way, the ability to stay flexible. If somebody throw a contingency at us, the way that we manage the 3 C's, staying composed, being able to concentrate on the issue, staying confident, draw from within, right? Know what you can do. And then we are better able to manage the different things. So it's larger than just resilience. is larger than just bouncing back from failure. It's more than mindfulness. Mindfulness is about mainly staying focused, staying positive. But this model has got, beyond this 4 C's, I already covered 4 C. 1 C that's very important is the last C, is cohesion. The importance of staying in a community. The first community that we all belong to is actually our family. So staying tight as a family, being able to offer help when somebody, contribute to a family. The ability to receive help when we need. That means the ability to ask for help. If I need help from my daughters, I say, can you come and I'm really not feeling well. Can you go and prepare dinner? Or
Sure.
I'm really feeling down. Can you massage? The ability of just having that exchange and not just hide in isolation and don't want to talk to anybody. It gives a more holistic approach to mental health. Because sometimes when it comes to mental health issue, the first thing is isolation. I don't feel like talking to anybody. I just want to stay in my room. I just want to sleep on my bed. I don't want to talk to anyone. That is actually not a healthy way to recover and be, stay healthy mentally. And so being able to do all these 5 C's, to me, and I believe for you too, is a more holistic approach to looking at mental wellness issues.
So mental toughness, is everyone born with it or everyone born without it, and therefore it's a kind of a brand new skill that we have to, pick up, learn, and practice along the way?
I think there are certain things that comes a little bit naturally, but there are certain things there's a lot of scope for it to be explicitly taught, in a more structured way. I think many a times, for me, when I feel stressed or something, right, I think parents who are listening to this, right, will naturally, if our kids make us angry, or our spouse make us angry, right, the first reaction we might have is to sigh.
Does it mean that for someone with mental toughness would not react that way?
No, will. So what I'm saying is that some things are natural. Some things that we know intuitively, right? So that is an example of something that's very intuitive. But a more structured way of teaching that would be, actually there's science behind it, right? There's a way that we can control our breathing that helps us to keep our mind
lower
calmer.
our heartbeat.
Yeah, how does that work?
So that's on the biological level. You feel like your face is getting very red when you're frustrated, your heartbeat is increasing. So when she was talking about calming yourself down, that's really to take a deep breath. Some people sigh, like what she just did, and really to lower your heartbeat to keep yourself focused. If not, like what she just mentioned earlier, everything is on fire and you can't really focus on what you need to do at hand.
So how do we do that?
So we need to
do the breathing one.
Breathing, yeah.
Yeah, so we take deep breaths, and I think we've always heard that a lot, but when we teach this for mental toughness, we teach that the out breath has to be longer than the in breath. So very quickly, it would probably be, if you breathe in, you breathe in for 4 counts, and when you breathe out for 8 counts. But the focus is just that the out breath is longer than the in breath, so you really get your whole body to calm down. You can feel your shoulders relaxing, your hands unclenched, so you can feel yourself physically calm down.
Yeah, so
helps.
There are many things that we cannot control in life, right? But the one thing that we all can control is controlling our breath, right? So when Nicole was talking about, breathing in 4 counts, it doesn't have to be specifically 4, but the idea is when you breathe in and then you breathe out, we control it and make it longer. You do it a few times. And young children can do this too, right? They understand this and it works for them. So
we've done this with 9
we have done it
children?
with young children. So, we have done it with adults. Yeah. And it's really first controlling. So figuring out things that we can control actually helps in stressful situations. When things are all over the place, we don't know where to start. It starts with what we can control, and all of us can control our breath. Once we can control that, you'll find that your brain is calmer. And when we are calmer, this is the first C, that is the composure, right? When we are able to stay composed, then we have this capacity or the bandwidth to be able to then focus on the issue. I am not going to think about other things. What is the problem now? Let me just focus on this problem. Or what is the task that I need to do? It's not always a problem thing, of course. It could be a task that I need to do. It could be a presentation. It could be a difficult conversation that I need to go into with my spouse or my teen, right? And so when we do that, we want to make sure that we are in a calm state so that our tone of voice that comes out can be calmer and not like raising and shouting or talk very fast, right? We find that when we are breathing slower, our tone of voice is calmer, and that helps to keep like an atmosphere of peace in the home as well. And that's so important if we want to create a safe space.
I've learned something about this before, how you prevent yourself from flipping the lid. And that's what Daniel Siegel, a medical doctor and, someone who talks a lot about the brain, he calls it flipping the lid, where, you basically lose control of your prefrontal cortex, and it's flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, and therefore you are acting all purely out of your emotions. And after everything is over, and after the adrenaline and cortisol has been reabsorbed by the body, and you will say to yourself, or you say to other people, "Oh, that wasn't me." It's okay. Yeah. All right. So moving on, Nicole, maybe you can tell us. You are also trained in this.
Yes, right.
Can you share with us one example of how this has really benefited you? Maybe a situation, a specific situation where you've found yourself needing to practice this, and it really helped.
Oh yeah, sure. And I think I'll share a situation where maybe quite a few people will be able to relate to, and that's getting COVID. So in the initial few hours, like you do your test, you feel like you have a few symptoms. For me, I had really bad fever, and I didn't think much of it, and I also had sore throat. So I was in my room, thankfully, like my family was outside. I tested, and after 15 minutes, there were 2 lines, and I was freaking out. I called my family on video call, and I told them I have COVID, and then I don't really know what to do. Those were like the first few minutes, you're freaking out. What do I do? I need to isolate. What is my family gonna do? Because I'm so worried that they will get infected too. And that whole few moments of chaos until I realized that, okay, I cannot sit here and panic, and I cannot just call them. I need to do something. So the people that I interacted with for the past few days, I quickly went to go and text them, just got everything I needed before I went to isolate in my own room, thankfully. But the whole point of this situation was that I could have just panicked and just left everybody else to go and solve the situation for themselves. But I told myself that I need to calm down because I'm the one who's sick, so I need to go and move myself. So that was the lesson I learned, that really need to practice composure, like what she said, one of the 5 C's. Practice that on myself and make sure that I get everything so that not just me, but everybody else is safe.
So you had composure, you try to maintain composure. And how do you maintain composure?
I think I had to take a really deep breath, and then in my mind just kind of list out who I need to quickly text and what I need to maybe bring into my isolation.
So that is the second C about concentration. You crowd out those things, those emotions that are not useful for you to think about what you need to do. You focus, right?
Yeah. And focus on what I need to do next.
Yeah. So the more composed you are, the more able you feel that the more able you can do that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wonderful. All right. Yeah. I think sometimes we scare ourselves by imagining all kinds of things, and we speculate, right? And we lose touch with reality. We're no longer objective, right? We imagine all the things that can happen, and the more we imagine, the more frightened we get, and the more frightened we get, the more paralyzed we are.
Yeah, the whole loop.
Yeah, that's right. It's a negative feedback loop, right? So the best thing, I think this is a matter of training your mind and practicing it enough that it becomes automatic, that you do not jump into that vicious cycle and downward spiral, but instead you go into a positive loop, right? And being more objective. And I think the emotions are the things that we need to kind of bring under control first. Because the emotions are the ones that are hidden, and sometimes we think we are very objective thinking people, but actually it's driven by emotions. Right? So until you are aware of your emotions, right, you're not truly rational. Okay, because you're just being led by your emotions. Thank you for that. I think that I hope you're feeling better now. If you're
Also
totally
much better.
recovered.
That was like quite some time back.
Okay, all right. So you should have natural immunity already.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so what can negatively impact, a person's mental toughness?
Yeah, I think one of the key things would be, I think that the last C, when I talked about the cohesion, I think one of the key things, when we start to isolate ourselves, that's where things can get, it's harder to get out of the darkness if we are alone. Okay, so being able to, I think as human beings, we are meant to be relational. We need people around us, and people can help to encourage us, and we can also encourage others. And then science have also shown that actually when we serve other people, when we are doing things together as a family to help another family, for example, or even within the household, when we help somebody else, the very act of just showing kindness to others actually has a benefit in return to us that helps us to say, hey, actually we are people of value, that I can add value to other people. And so being part of a community is so important. So what your question was, what can negatively impact it? It's when we start to isolate, when we start to like, I don't think there's any meaning. I don't want to talk to my parents. I don't want to talk to my kids. I want to be alone. I think that is a sign that we will need to reach out to them if they show signs of isolation. Yeah.
I think in the Singaporean culture, it's so easy to, like, you have a certain sense of ego because you want to prove that you can do the task at hand, and you don't really like want other people's help because you want to show them that you have the skills to do it. I just finished my intern like a month ago, and I sometimes fell into that bad habit, but I realized how important it is to just be vulnerable if I really can't do it. And I'm sure many of those who are listening to us can relate also. Like, if we really can't, we need that group of people around us. I think some of the parents, like in the workplace also, like we have a team that we do work together with, and I think it's so needed nowadays to just say that I need help. Yeah, like both in the work setting, in outside of work as well, like really just to speak up and get the community around you involved too.
Yeah, and so what I find is really important is to reinforce to ourselves as leaders of the home, as parents, as well as to young people, that the first community, the first team that we have that can support us through life is actually the family. Right? So the importance of nurturing the family, knowing that we are here for each other, for the good and the bad times, has a direct connection with our mental well-being, both for the children and for us adults. And so as I study this more, as I teach this more, I realize that this is so important, that it's not just about, the family is very important, we need to bond. But all this conversation that we have, currently about, youth mental well-being, how can we support our young people? How do we normalize it? If we can address it at a family front, right? And create, and catch ourselves in our tone of voice as we talk to each other as at home, as we talk through differences, through the different development stages, I think that creates a solid foundation for both the young people as they journey through life into adulthood, and for us parents as we nurture our young. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. Would you say that, Singaporeans are mentally tough, generally speaking?
I think there's a lot of scope.
A lot of room for improvement.
I think, at least from what I observe as I serve families and I talk to teachers, what I am observing, whether for young or old, sometimes we, instead of spending the energy to process the root of the stress, sometimes we kind of like want to over-distract ourselves by going into gaming, going into addiction. So that distracts us or numb us away from the real issues that we should be tackling. So I won't, in that sense, I don't think we are mentally tough, because we are not dealing with the root issue. The root issue be maybe interpersonal issues with friends or with teachers or with parents, or is it academic stuff, or is it, the real stuff. We don't tackle it, but we just numb ourselves. Okay, I just want to spend 2 hours watching another movie and that does not help us. And if that habit is nurtured from a young age, like we don't give children or we don't give young children the skills to be able to process their emotions in a healthy way, right? If they feel angry, how do they deal with it? If they feel stressed, what are healthy ways to cope with it? And then instead, it's very natural, unfortunately, for young and as well as the old, to go into things that are so attractive and so fun, right? That have got a storyline that can bring us deep into something that doesn't actually help us to solve the real issue. And so I think for us as Singaporeans, we have a lot of stresses from different spheres of our life. And I think we do need time and space for us to tackle those things up front, be it talking about it in the home, be it talking about it with friends, or just finding space to internalize and think about those issues, reflect on that experience and figure out how else can we do better. Many a times we don't have space to do that. Either we fill it with more activities, or we fill it with another video or a game that we don't have time to process. And those mental load, if we don't clear it, we don't process it, it adds up. And ultimately, it will be like a volcano. At some point, it will come out. And so learning how to process it well is so important.
I think mental toughness is not simply being stoic, right? It's not about just enduring, showing no pain, no emotions, right? But there is actually a science behind it in that sense, and a right way of doing it as compared to, just bearing with it and, not thinking about it. So let's go into specific example. Maybe if you can choose one of the 5 C's, and give a example, maybe if you can, a personal example of how do you learn it and how do you apply it.
You want to go first?
You go first. She has kind of like mentioned it in her example of how during COVID, for me, I have multiple opportunities to practice it, especially the first C. The first C is always very important, the composure. We will say this again and again, right? And Nicole talked about it when she first heard the news, right? Like, you were crying and you're very flustered. I can tell that you were very impacted. Yeah. It's okay to cry. It's okay to say that I cry. I also cry, right? And when we get upset, that's how the body reacts to stress also, actually. And so it's actually okay to cry. And so for her case, she gave the example of COVID. For me, it would be situations where so there have been situations where I've been like cancelled. People don't agree with what I say. They criticize in a really not a good way. They dig up my stuff, and it's very natural then to have a mix of feelings. Like it could be a fear, it could be I don't know what's going to happen next. It is not expected. So these are situations where we can apply the mental toughness skills. So first thing is instead of having all these emotions come out, I think I recognize that I'm under stress. Right? When we feel stress, right, our mind feels stress, it manifests in the body, right? The heart would beat faster. You might find that you perspire, right? And so the first thing is to find a way to, again, have control over the body so that we can calm our mind. So the first C, as we say over and over again in this conversation, right? The first C is take control of the breathing. So whenever I catch myself highly stressed by other things, right? Like being cancelled, for example, right? The first thing is to calm myself down, right? So again, practicing that breathing, right? Breathing in and then breathing out. And for me, as a person of faith, I add that with prayer. So as I breathe in, I ask Father, God, I need more of you. And I breathe out, things that, forgiveness, my anger, I breathe that out and do it over a few times. And I find that helps me to keep my composure. And again, because it's so foundational, when we have that calmness of mind, right, then we are better able to focus on what needs to be done, right? So for example, if I'm engaging with some people online and then get bashed and whatever, so I will have to make sure that, the things that I post, I want to be gentle. I shouldn't, when I'm angry and I post something angry, it's not going to help the situation, right? So by staying calm and then able to concentrate, which is the second C, concentration, I'm then better able to see what is the issue at hand actually. What are we disagreeing about? Are there certain common space that I can find with other people that can help us to expand our conversation? And I find that this kind of skills of managing differences, it's useful not just in terms of online engagement, but also in the family, right? There can be different things that we disagree on, and sometimes the disagreement can make our blood boil, and sometimes you feel this emotion volcano coming out. And then once we have that sensation coming up, it's a way of telling us, hey, I think our mind is on fire, so let's calm down, catch our breathing, bring it back down, so that when the words come out of our mouth can be more gentle, can have a nicer tone, so that it brings whoever that we need to talk to, be it our children, be it our spouse, right? That we are better able to connect. Because sometimes when we lose touch or we lose control of our emotions and our words and our behaviors, that's where we need so much more work to mend back. Whereas if we have controlled it right at the start, right, when we are more measured, when we are able to talk in a calmer voice with a more positive demeanor and more humble posture, and that's where communication can be so much easier. I hope that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep, it makes absolute sense. Well, thank you for that. I think this year the 5 C's, kind of completes the circle, right? You start, like you say, with was it composure? Right,
yes,
learning to breathe,
and concentration, and then confidence that we can do this. 4th C is culpability, right? When we combine the 3 C's, then we can manage different things to be adaptive. And the last C is cohesion, right? Being in a team.
So far we've been talking mostly about an individual, either you or Nicole, learning and then practicing it. Are there any additional benefits when you do it, let's say, as a family?
Yeah, so when we are able to do this, so for maybe in our family's example, okay, so when I first learned the skills and I tried it on myself, I say, hey, wow, it works for me. And I was very excited, wow, and then I shared it with her, and then she said, oh, can you go try it? Does it work for you? And then when she gets it, she was also very excited, hey, I think we need to tell to more people. And what value does that add to our relationship? I think it gives us a common language. It gives us common skills, that we are then better able to, catch each other, like sometimes when we are preparing, just before this, actually, she was saying that, Mommy, this is not a good pre-performance routine. Because as part of the maintaining composure, we encourage, right, that before we go into a performance or a task, in our case now, it could be coming and have a conversation with you, right? We allocate time for us to prepare mentally, and that's actually part of mental toughness, right? Mental rehearsal, right? I don't have time to cover the full suite of things. There are skills that we can learn, right? When we are able to make use of the power of imagination, the imagery, right? That vision that we have. Right? And then prepare ourselves, our hearts, make sure that, the things that we need are on the table at the right place. And then going through it mentally together, especially when we want to do things together. I think that is really very useful. So it can apply to any situation in the family. It could be taking care of someone who is unwell. It could be supporting one another to maybe she needs to make an important presentation. Then I can remind her, I can encourage her in a way that helps her. In that sense, so we have the common language, we have things that can bond us together, that can help in building a cohesive family. So I feel that that's so important on so many levels.
So I think for whoever is listening also, I think, and I would admit also, that it takes time to build these skills. So I remember there was this season after I recently got the certification for mental toughness, and then she was already certified, so I had to catch up to her level. And I think even in our family, not just the both of us. Like it also takes time, like when we share with like my sister, my dad, when we share with them about the things that we learn. And as a family, it definitely takes time. And I just want to encourage whoever is listening, if you're interested, but it feels like, there's so many things to do. I also feel the same way. There's a lot of things to do, but the skills, it takes time to build. So you really don't need to worry about coming up to our level like immediately, because it doesn't happen overnight. It really does take baby steps, and getting the whole family involved, because really like what she said, and I also agree that there is really so much good that comes out of going through this together as a family and learning to be mentally tough, especially in these very like confusing times.
And I feel that when one family can be mentally tough, resilient, cohesive, able to manage different things that life throws at us, and when one family can do that, it can multiply. We can actually go and help other families, right? You can go and help sometimes we do this together for young people and parents together, right? And imagine if there are more families that are mentally tough, radiant, resilient, cohesive. What difference does it make to our nation? And I think that's such important, not just cohesion as a family, that there are also larger impact
into the community.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all of us can look out for another family, another young person, another peer, So all of us can do our part to have a mentally healthy nation.
All right. I think that's what we need, right? I think as a nation, we need to be prepared for more turbulent times ahead. And I think mental toughness is certainly one trait or one characteristic or skill, if you want to call it, that we all need. Otherwise, we will all be panicking. Right? The stock market is going to be in haywire if everyone starts to, panic sell and things like that. Well, that's good. I'm glad to see both of you doing it together. And have the rest of the family come on board yet? Or are you kind of informally teaching them, coaching them?
Internal trainers.
Getting there.
Okay. You said something about, so you have been certified, all right? But I think it still takes time for you to really practice it and make it part of your life, isn't it?
Yeah.
How long do you think that takes?
I think it's a case by case. Like it just varies between people. I think you got it really fast, right? Yeah, and I think because you need to be very intentional with everything that you do. Sometimes the funniest thing is that like you go through it and then you know what to do, and then when you get into the moment, then your brain's just on fire. After that, you reflect. You're like, oh, I should have like done it in a better way. But it's okay, because there were times where I caught myself before when I went into the same situation. Then I was able to pick myself up. So I think it does take time. We need to be very focused to handle the situation better. Need to calm down a little bit more whenever like I'm talking to people or even managing myself at times. So yeah, it does take a little bit of time, but yeah.
A habit needs time to form, right? The brain needs time to
to rewire itself. Yeah. There's a saying, right? Old habits die hard. So you just got to be patient and be consistent. I think that's the word, right? Be consistent and be very, very conscious about putting into practice all that you've learned. Otherwise, all our instinctive, reflexive actions will just take over, and all the time you spend trying to learn what you've put into practice, what you've learned just goes to waste. Well, thank you very much, Carol and Nicole, for taking your time to share with us about mental toughness. And I think if people want to find out more, for example, is there a website they can go to?
They can follow us on our socials. We haven't, we have been busy serving families. We haven't had the time to like build our website. Yeah, she's working on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
So for now,
I
think your Facebook would be a good place to start.
My Facebook. Yeah, follow us. Or you can follow Nicole too.
On Instagram, where all the youth are.
All right. I will definitely put all the links in the description on YouTube channel. And